So, our keynote for this morning is Steph Piper. I'll get the name right this time. Sorry, Steph, last time. And Steph is a creative technology and maker, technologist and maker. She is the Makerspace Manager at UniSQ, based in Toowoomba, Queensland. She is the author of Skill Seeker and the Skill Trees project, using gamification to level up your skills. She also creates electronic kits for young girls that are now sold globally through the US and UK stockists. With a background in biofabrication, Steph also teaches classes in 3D printing, Arduino and hardware development. Thank you, Steph.
Thank you so much. This is unfortunately not the first time I've been called Stephen, if you're wondering. So a few years ago I went to China and I made these special business cards that actually had my name translated into Chinese on there. And I gave it to the translator first thing and she said, yep, that says Stephen on it. Classic. But yeah, today I'll be talking to you all about my Maker Skill Trees project. And to get us started, I'd like you all to just sit back and imagine something in your mind's eye to begin with. I'd like you to imagine that you can suddenly see everything that you've ever done in front of you on a video game dashboard. Every skill that you've mastered, every milestone that you've achieved, and every experience contributing to your scores. And I'd like you to, think about what skills you might be rating highly in, Do you have an idea where your skills might be maxed out and what skills you might be trying to work on? And then I'd also like you to imagine that you can see the skills of the other people around you. You can lean over and you can take a peek at their skills dashboard. Would you be surprised with what you might find? Would you think, wow, that person is actually so much more, skilled in that area than I thought? And would you potentially be inspired to help them level up their skills? Would you think, yeah, I could help you get to that next point because I know how to do that? Or would you be a bit more inspired to get competitive and maybe try and beat them in their scores? So that's a little bit of a teaser for what's to come in this talk. So a little bit about me before I get started though. So as was said, my day job is running a little library makerspace out at the University of Southern Queensland, based in Toowoomba. So it's just a little space and I'm a one-person staff member that runs the show out there, but I really love my job. So we have a whole range of 3D printers, we have an electronics bench, and what I really love about the space is that students can come in and not just do projects for their assignments and their research projects, they can also do fun extracurricular stuff as well. And when they come in, they get up to 500 grams of free printing. And if they want to go over that, they can just bring in their own material. And so I had a student last year who made an entire Master Chief cosplay in the space, which was very impressive. And I had another student who built an entire Wall-E robot as well that she meticulously hand-painted, which she donated to the space for us to have on display, and it looks gorgeous. And my intention with the space is to really get people in and get them feeling really confident and independent on the tools while they're working on projects that they're excited about doing. So yeah, it's great fun out there. And outside of my day job, I have a little side business as well called Maker Queen, where I make beautiful electronics kits. And the way that I design these is to try and get them to look a little bit like enameled pins. And for those of you who do make circuit boards in the room, you probably notice that these maybe look a little bit different from standard circuit boards because I managed to find a factory in China who would do 2 different solder mask colours on a board. And if you're able to cleverly arrange the layers of gold and solder mask underneath each other, you can achieve even more of a colour distribution. And so that's how I've ended up with, so many different hues of green in that particular badge kit there. I also make a cat soldering kit as well, and all those pieces snap together to make a cat nightlight. that turns on when it gets dark as well. But more recently, I have successfully crowdfunded a wearable technology project. So these are called glow stitch LEDs. And the idea with these is that I kind of made these because I got really frustrated with the LilyPad range. For those of you who have used it before, it's essentially LEDs that you can like hand stitch with conductive thread. And tell you what, no one has hand stitching skills anymore. And anyway, so I made these out of flexible circuit board materials. And the idea is that you can actually like literally just cut these out and stick these down with conductive fabric tape. And because they're so thin, you can just sew them on a sewing machine. And they're not only great for doing wearable tech projects, but you can also use them for like putting into paintings as well, and doing papercraft kind of stuff. So a whole range of different project ideas. And pretty delighted to say that these are now available through Adafruit as well overseas. So it's super exciting. Hell yeah. But yeah, so you can see that in that example project anyway, they're getting stuck down with the conductive tape. And I also designed these so that they would be super simple and easy to use. You cannot code them, you cannot program them, and that's intentional. So that for those people who are kind of teachers or non-technical folks, if they want to just add instant rainbows to a project, it's just going to make it super easy for them to do that. And it might help them learn about electronics for the first time and help them get the confidence to take on your programmable LEDs and your higher end projects. So yeah, pretty excited about that one. And another project that I did a few years ago is called the Party Button. And it is a 2.2 metre tall stainless steel art installation that was featured at Curiosity Brisbane. And how it works is you press the button and it plays one of 20 randomised party tracks. And the characters at the top do one of 4 different dance animations. And when it was on display, I could not believe the amount of TikTok videos that people made next to it. This lady is a radio presenter as well in Brisbane. So it was pretty awesome. And to build this as well, if you're wondering, you don't actually need to go down the street with a special screwdriver to get the traffic button. You can just go on AliExpress and get those for about $100. So yeah, that's one of my favourite projects that I've made as well. And we just skipped a slide there. In this presentation, what I'll be doing is taking you through my skill trees project, which is all about the concept of using video game skill trees to learn real life skills. I'll be talking you through how it's grown into quite a large GitHub repository, how it's evolved into a book, and some of my future expansion plans, and some calls for help as well from the crowd on different problems that I have. But as you can kind of see, I just want so as you can see from the projects that I've shown and the projects that I'm about to show, a lot of my internal why that I do these is because I deeply feel that learning technical things is often way too complex. And we need to find a lot more ways to make learning a lot more simple, more fun, more beautiful, and more inspiring if we can. And sometimes you feel like that little tiny guy at the bottom of these stairs. The stairs are too big for you. How are you going to overcome that first step to getting into that particular skill? It's too much. And if we can find ways to shrink those stairs and get it to be a much easier step up to that first thing, often they're going to find their own way and sometimes even, develop really long journeys out of those. So that's kind of my why, is making that first step a nice, easy entryway into getting into the hard things. And for those who don't know what a skill tree is, it's essentially a video game mechanic. So the skill tree up on the board there is from one of the God of War games. And the idea is that as you're playing the game, you're earning experience points, or XP. And you can often spend those points on a skill tree like that. And you can generally make your character that you're playing specialise in a certain area. So in this one, you can see that you can become a hunter, a warrior, or a seer, or you can mix your skills across the different branches as well. And when you unlock those skills, You can suddenly run 10% faster. You can, unlock different fighting moves. All kinds of stuff that really makes the gameplay more fun and more interesting and rewards you for the effort that you're putting into playing it. And so, I really love the idea of gamification. And I really wanted to use it to solve one of the key problems that I have at my workplace. So, working in the library, we run all of these fantastic workshops, especially during O Week, where students can come along and learn some of the key skills around, learning how to reference, learning how to avoid plagiarism, stuff that is quite a core skill, but, because it's not compulsory, we don't have people coming along as many as they should. And, they're obviously, not the most exciting workshops, to be honest. So I can see why. But, and then we wonder why we have all these downstream problems with students in our academic probation programs. And if we were able to incentivise them to get involved at the start, some kind of potential gamification, then they might, we might avoid some of those problems in future. And of course, you just don't know what you don't know. Some of those students might assume that they know everything there is to know about those areas. And it's, it might be different from what you've learned at high school. And I really wanted it to be a solution that was off the computer and on paper, so that it was a distraction-free experience. And this is the template that I came up with. So this is essentially a whole range of tiles that are organised from basics at the base, and they move to advanced at the top. And this is for the 3D printing skill area. And to use this, all you do is you just colour in the boxes of anything you've already done. So you can visually see your progress, you can identify your skill gaps, and you can get inspired to try new things. And so just to shine a light on some of these tiles in particular, if you want to learn 3D printing, maybe one of the first things you might do is pick a simple model to 3D print online. You might start to learn about the different types of 3D printers, some 3D printer safety, and as you're going along your journey and you're starting to make things, you might experience some problems with the machine. You might need to learn how to do maintenance in your machine, and you might also have a huge print failure and make a lot of spaghetti as well. And, rather than kind of being sad about that, really that is just a quintessential experience of owning a 3D printer. And that's one of the tiles that you can unlock along the way. And as you work your way up the tree, we're getting into the more advanced skill areas. So you might be learning different slicing softwares. You might be using different materials. You might have a go at acetone smoothing, an ABS part. And you might even want to build your own 3D printer, maybe using the Voron or the RatRig projects. And you might start to give back as well to the community, where you might be teaching classes or writing guides to help those new people at the bottom work their way up to the top. And so my design choices for making it this way is obviously I really love hexagons. I love a good hexagon. And my initial concept was to make it quite similar to video game skill trees in the way that the tiles would be connected, so that you would have to unlock the thing at the bottom before you unlocked the thing at the top. But once I started to make it that way, it looked like a bit of a nightmare. Like real life skills, you can do quite out of order. And often that's the way that you learn, because you pop into the makerspace one day and someone's there and they teach you how to do something that's maybe a bit above your level. It's really hard to connect those tiles meaningfully, and like my initial concept just looked like a real rat's nest, to be honest. Like everything was connected and it looked a bit stupid. So I also really wanted to make sure they were chunked out into very flexible milestones, so that you're really getting at the core of what they need to know, and they're not kind of doing something that's oddly specific, and they're working on something that they can interpret in their own way to fit your own personal journey and the projects that you're interested in doing. So it's very much bingo sheet kind of energy, rather than a teaching rubric that kind of says you must do things in this particular way. And so some of my early tests that I did, I was just overwhelmed with the response. So the first skill tree that I made was actually 3D printing and 3D modelling. And I was just blown away by the response online. People were filling them in and they were sending them back to me, which was delightful to see. And they were saying things like, wow, I can't believe I've actually done so much. I didn't realise. This is great. And probably my favourite one that someone sent back to me was the electronics skill tree. And they'd coloured everything in, except for there's one tile in the centre. which was let the magic smoke out. I was like, okay, we can't all be so good. Yeah, very impressive. Yeah, perfection speedrun. Yeah, so, yeah, pretty fantastic stuff. And where I found this to be particularly useful is that I often have these students that come into the Makerspace who are staff members that help out. And I don't really get a choice in the actual recruitment of those students. So they come in and they're a bit of a wild card as to what their skill levels are. Some of them learn about what a Makerspace is for the first time on their first day, and others are kind of pretty across it. And so when I give them just a general Makerspace skill tree, I can immediately get a sense of where they're at. And sometimes, you know, I'm kind of surprised to find that they haven't had a chance to use a hot glue gun in their life yet. And that means that I can really, like, target the areas that they need to know and not retrain them in areas that they might already be across. So I can really make the time quite efficient, and it means that they can go away and continue to work on the tiles as well when there's downtime in the space, which is great. And so some of the benefits that I've found as well is, obviously, as I mentioned, it's a bit of a great equaliser in the way that if you're a bit underconfident about your skills, you might suffer from a bit of imposter syndrome, potentially. You know, you might fill one of these out and think, actually, I've done quite a lot. You know, like, this is really a confidence booster because, you know, like, I'm, yeah, actually quite good at this particular thing. And on the other end of the scale, it might help those people as well that are a bit overconfident, that might assume they have a lot of skills, to get a true sense of where they stand. And I've got a great example of this where I was actually fixing one of our 3D printers in the Makerspace one day. And it's a bit of a different kind of 3D printer. It's a conveyor belt machine that is called the 3D print mill, and it's a Creality brand one. And it's a bit of a pain to level, but I'm kind of across how it works now. Like, it took me a while, but I got there. And I had a student come in who immediately looked at what I was doing and said, oh, you know, you should be doing this and that and this. And I said, you sure? Like, and I said, so do you have a 3D printer at home? And he said, oh, no. And I said, have you ever used a 3D printer before? And as he started to back out the door at that point, he said, as a mechanical engineer, I have an inherent understanding of how things work. And with that, he was gone. So for those kind of folks, I think it would be, you know, really useful as well. So it can really help you target those areas that you need to work on and catalyse your improvement, you know, quite effectively, because it is, like, honestly, it's so easy to get stuck in your ways of working. If you're an old master at 3D printing and you were there back in RepRap days on that front, you know, if you haven't looked into the new world of 3D printing that's out there now, you may not be across the latest softwares, the latest places you can go for models. You know, all those things that a new player is going to be across pretty quickly. So yeah, it's super important to stay on top of, you know, all of those skills. And as this project has slowly been building up over time, I've started to, you know, at the time I was speaking to expert friends in my local area, and I was brainstorming different skill area trees, and I started putting them up on my GitHub page. And the repository has just steadily grown from there. And now I'm pretty happy to say that we've got about 56 skills, including this huge list of skills covered in those templates. So we've got stuff from 3D modelling to metalworking, circuit board design to embedded systems, and even some really niche skills like comic book artistry, Kubernetes, and Dungeons and Dragons. And interestingly, the cocktail skill tree was actually brainstormed with Zach Friedman, the YouTuber, which was pretty cool. But yeah, some of the more recent skills that people have submitted have been astronomy, amateur radio, and climbing. And as I've been putting this together, like, my heart has just been so full, and I have loved learning about all of these different spaces, because a lot of these areas I haven't given two thoughts to be honest. Like, they're kind of not things that I thought I would be interested in, but looking at some of the skills and understanding what they mean, like, I just feel so blown away by some of the stuff that I've discovered. So for example, in the astronomy skill tree, I really love how one of the starting tiles is use telescopic binoculars, which I did not know existed. And in the amateur radio skill area as well, like I really love, I love discovering the concept of QSL cards. So who knows what a QSL card is here? Hands up. Yeah, quite a few of you. But the concept is that like if you have a radio and you're making contact with someone, especially if they're quite far away, you might decide to swap your QSL cards with each other. And it's a little card that has your radio call sign, maybe a picture of your local area on there, and people collect these and they have these huge binders full of them. And I just think it's so delightful that there's not only such a love for the technology at the core of that hobby, but there's also this beautiful like social connection that they get out of it too. So yeah, I've just loved learning about all these different areas. And when people submit a skill tree, generally I go through and do some checks to make sure it fits with the design constraints that I've made. So I need to make sure that the tiles are very flexible and they're not too specific. So for example, if you were submitting the woodworking skill tree and you submitted a tile that said, make a clock, I would change that to something like add electronics to a project so that you can interpret that in your own way for the project that you are excited about doing without needing to do something that's specific to someone else, potentially. And it really needs to include options for tools that aren't cost or availability restrictive and globally applicable. Like I am getting quite a few very American-centric skill trees coming through, and I kind of need to go through and really address some of those. Yeah. So like, another great example is the finance skill tree was recently submitted, and I ended up going through there and removing tiles like teach your son how to do finances and speak to your parents about their retirement plans. Stuff like that, because you shouldn't need to rent a son to complete the skill tree. Might be difficult. So it really is about yourself and your personal goals and not necessarily the people around you. And once those are submitted and I go through and check them, they're uploaded as a draft and they are open for peer review. So experts can come in and peer review those skill trees and make sure that the tiles are ordered correctly from basics to advanced and that they're factually correct as well. So I'm not an expert in all these areas and I cannot do that myself. Once that's completed, the final skill tree is then available for people to submit translations to. So I've had some great translations submitted in French, Chinese and Spanish so far, which has been really lovely to see. And I've also got a whole range of posters that people can download too. So these are a conglomeration of skill areas that you can track a bunch of different things under a single heading and you can have it up on the wall. So you can see your progress, nice and close. And this is one of the books that I'd highly recommend that kind of really resonated with me in this project. It's called The Learning Game, sorry. And the concept of this book is really critically analysing how schools teach skills right now. So if you're a student at a school, you've got to be in class at this time and you've got quite a tight schedule of things and you are set a task in each one of these classes that you must complete. And if you don't have the motivation for that task, sorry, you have to go and do it. And if you do have the motivation to do that, then that's great, but you don't have a chance to deep dive into it. You've got to move on and do the next thing. Tear yourself away from it. And so you're always skimming the surface and not getting a chance to deep dive. And you do not really have any agency or choice around these different skills that you are having a go at. And your goal is to study for a test rather than building up a portfolio. So I'm kind of excited to see how the idea of this project might give students in schools potentially choice to do projects that they are interested in doing, while building up a portfolio of their skills. But around this time, I kind of realised that this would actually work quite well as a book. You'd be able to track a whole range of different skills at once, and not only could you do that, but you could also tally up all of the points that you get along the way, where every tile would be 1 point, and you could calculate your Maker XP score, or your experience score. And you could show it all off in this video game dashboard. And so I made my first beta tester of the book that I distributed at the Makerspace Symposium back in 2023. And I got a whole range of great feedback, which then fed into beta tester number 2. which I really got a chance to refine the skills that I included. So there's 15 different skills in there, and they're all kind of revolving around things you might do in a makerspace. And at this time, I was kind of brought to a decision around whether I wanted to go with the self-publishing route or traditional publishing. And lucky for me, there's a fantastic local writers' centre that's close by to me in Toowoomba called the Lighthouse. And out there's a whole range of really talented self-published authors. And they run these classes that you can go and sit down and learn how all of that works with Amazon KDP, all that kind of stuff. And yeah, they're actually, like, to be honest, a whole bunch of retired romance novelists. They love it, and they're honestly, they're killing it as well. Like, I was chatting to one of them, and she was explaining to me that for every physical copy of the book she sold, she sells 70 copies online with Amazon Kindle subscriptions that people pay. So, yeah, pretty phenomenal stuff. And I kind of realised at that point that because my book was essentially a colouring in book, that it really needed to be a physical copy. It needed to be on paper, and self-publishing was not going to give me the distribution that I needed to really get this out there. So yeah, I ended up deciding to go down the traditional publishing route. And to do that, essentially what you do is you create a book proposal, which tells everyone how great your book's going to be, and a chapter sample, which is a peek inside the book. And I started to send those out to publishers, and as is expected during that process, started to receive rejections. So yeah, pretty classic part of doing this kind of stuff. And yeah, I ended up sending a little email to Make. And yeah, I said, would you like to feature the repository in the magazine? What do you think? And I immediately got a response from Dale Doherty, the father of Make Affairs himself, who said, yep, let's chat. And I sent him through the book proposal. And in July last year, he sent through a contract. And so I've signed on with them for a traditional publishing deal. So, yeah. Yeah, so honestly, that blew me away. I was like, this is fantastic, because I thought that I was going to be hammering this for potentially years to come to try and find the right publishing fit. Anyway, it was perfect. And I said, look, it's going to take me another 3 months to finish off this book. And a couple of weeks in, they're like, yeah, can you finish it a month earlier? And I was like, yeah, sure. I can do that. I'm not stressed. And yeah, I submitted the final book, and this is what it looks like. So yeah, pretty excited about how that turned out. And it's only been out for a few weeks now, and it's up on Booktopia, Barnes & Noble, on the Make website, and I've also got a few copies with me today as well. And if you're interested in writing a book, just some tips that I kind of have found along the way. Like, as you can see, I really spent a lot of time evolving my work and beta testing it to make sure it really hit the mark. And looking at the first version of my book cover, you're probably very glad that I did that. So you're never going to get it right the first time. You've always got to keep evolving and getting feedback and improving your work. I also, like, my process for making this was using Adobe Illustrator, vector software, and I made all my own illustrations, and then I put it into Adobe InDesign, which is the publisher's software that they use to prepare it for printing. So by doing it that way, I saved the publisher a whole lot of time doing all of that, so it was quite a great offer for them, because normally authors submit their works just as Word docs, and the publisher is expected to do all of that. So that really gave my work an edge, which made it quite appealing. So highly recommend doing that. And you've really got to have some good confidence in your work. So when I signed on with Make, I was kind of hoping deep in my heart that some god of books would come down from their office and say, Stephanie, I will tell you the things you can do to improve. And yeah, and really make your work stand out and make it great. And of course, that didn't happen. And it was all up to me to make sure that it was as good as I could make it. So what you can expect from the publisher is not any help with the actual content of your manuscript, but you can expect some, like, the final proofreading, and yeah, like, they'll do the editing and the formatting and that kind of stuff, and get it ready for the printer to accept. So yeah, that's kind of what I learned. And a bit of a peek inside the book as well. essentially, there's 15 different skill areas. And one of the very first skills that people might start with in here is the computing basics skill area. And this is a space that is kind of made for someone who may not have used a computer before. So if you have any friends or family members who want to get into these different skills but haven't quite gotten there yet, this is the area for them to start. And all of you in this room probably have that skill area completely filled in. Like, you'll just go to the garage and get a really big paintbrush and you'll just be able to just paint the whole thing at once. Probably. So yeah, it's kind of a very gentle introduction. And it flows into your digital fabrication style skills like your laser cutting, 3D printing, CNC and CAM, plus your digital kind of stuff like your coding and 3D modelling, and how those flow into your robotics and dev board skills. Plus, it also includes some tradecraft skills like woodworking and automotive, and a bit of crafting and sewing, and also entrepreneurship as well. So I've designed this particular skill set around the things that I would potentially expect to find at a makerspace. So if you were to join up to a makerspace for the first time, and you're feeling a bit overwhelmed, you might be able to pick up something like this and get inspired to start in some different areas that are suitable for your skill level. And also in the book you can go ahead and calculate your Maker XP score. Plus there's a profile page which has that dashboard that you can see all of your different skill levels in. And it's probably going to be a bit small to see at the front, but these are all of my skill levels. And so, they're not that good, don't clap. So, yeah, it's been really handy for me to work out that my electronic skills are actually starting to stagnate a bit because I keep using Arduino for everything. Why is it so good? And so, it's made me realise that I really need to step out of my comfort zone a bit, do a bit of Raspberry Pi, do a bit of, some of your Dick Smith's analogue kind of circuit projects and stuff like that. And I've barely even touched the metalworking and CNC skill areas, and I really want to get into those spaces too. So if you're wondering, my current XP score is 492, which is out of a maximum of just over 1,000. So 1,020 is the maximum score that you can get. And one of my beta testers, some of you may know, Mick Black, he lives up in Cairns. Yeah, phenomenal guy. His score was like 700 and something. And I was like, Jesus Christ, Mick, you're the avatar, master of all skills. I will bask in your presence next time I see you. So yeah, I was very impressed. Plus there's also pages in there for you to colour in and unlock different achievement badges. You can write your friends' scores on the leaderboard page and collect stamps in the passport section as well for events that you might go to and people that you might meet. I also went to the trouble of putting in a lot of really detailed, fun illustrations that help explain some of those key concepts that are in the book about journeys and flexible pathways, and even remixing the skill trees that are included in the book to match your own interests and goals that you have. So you're not expected to teach a class on your particular skill if that's where you're up to. You can go and swap that out and put something in that you're more interested in, and it's kind of a bit like a base for goal setting that you can customise and tailor to your own things that you want to do. And so the book is not just for Makerspace users, but also for, I photoshopped that, it's not real. Disappointing. Damn it. It's also for hobbyists at home. You might, like to use it as a family activity where you can upskill with your kids. It might be great for homeschool students, plus high school students who especially have a STEM club that they go to in the afternoons. University students, lifelong learners, and even retirees who are looking for a new challenge. And the experience that I'm trying to get people to have out of this book is I really want it to be quite meditative and reflective, where you actually get a chance to be away from the screens, be away from the distractions, and really get a sense to check in with yourself and who you are, where you're currently standing, and where you want to go next, what your goals are. Because, it's really easy to get out of touch with that sometimes when there's just so many things going on all the time, especially for me, too many things. Get a chance to really reward those uncomfortable experiences that you might want to do to continue your growth. And I'm also really looking forward to the potential social impact as well. So kind of getting back to, the teaser at the start, the idea of being able to look at your friends' scores and get a deeper understanding of who they are, what their journey is, and how you might be able to help them or get competitive with them. Whatever you choose, really. So I'm really looking forward to that kind of impact as well. We might be able to sit down in a makerspace and think, yeah, let's do a skill swap today. Well, let's work on a big project together, and then we'll both hit our own goals. So yeah, I think that's pretty cool. And I have about 20 copies of the book with me today. And if you're interested in grabbing a copy while you're here, I've set up a local pickup option, which is going to be a lot cheaper without the shipping. And that's up on my Etsy page. There'll be a QR code at the end. And kind of getting into some of my areas where I'm looking for some help and my future expansion plans for this project now. So I've got a range of skills that I'm trying to fill in the blanks for. So most of the skills I've kind of ticked off here, but there are a few areas that I'm still hunting for experts in. So I'm looking for someone in blacksmithing, jewellery making, and ceramics in the classic skills area. I'm looking for someone who might be able to brainstorm an AI and machine learning skill tree, something in research skills, and even in gaming, which might include both video games and board games. And in the life skills area, I'm looking for an expert in fermenting and preservation, non-alcoholic drinks, animal care, backyard science, volunteering, environmentalist, self-care, and life admin as well. And what I'll be working on this year is a kids version of the book. So I've had quite a lot of teachers see what I've been working on with the Skill Seeker book and say, I would really love for this to be something that I can use with my primary students. So I'm working on a version of this that would be suitable for 8 to 12-year-olds and be a lot more heavy with graphics, like infographics that explain some of the key concepts around what a makerspace is, how 3D printing works, plus a whole range of project pages as well to kind of give them something that they can be doing to interpret in their own way, but tick off a few goals to get started. And some of the skills that I would include are kind of swapping out some of the, your generalist subjects, some more kid-centric alternatives. So instead of coding, have Scratch. Instead of 3D modelling, have Tinkercad. And I've taken out the kind of more heavy skills like your CNC, automotive, and laser cutting. And so the skill trees that would be included would be a lot less tiles. So the current skill trees are about 73 tiles each. And so these would be about 40 tiles. And what I'm kind of looking for is teachers and educators who might be interested in giving feedback or doing beta testing of this finished copy when I have it ready. And I also want to have a version of the book that is really big as well. So not just being able to track maker skills, but tech skills, classic skills, and life skills all in one. And I'd really love to make this a book that is truly flexible to you, where you can take out pages of skills that you aren't interested in, get rid of those, and even print out new skill trees that have been submitted to put in there so that you can really focus and tailor it to your own journey and your own goal tracking. That's the dream. People also keep asking me whether I'm going to do a wiki page as well. And the idea of doing that maybe fills me with dread a little bit. Because there are obviously so many tiles, so many skill areas that, if you were to start building it, it would right now be about 4,000 pages of content, which is a bit too much for me to do by myself. So I'm kind of looking for advice and solutions around some kind of a wiki that could be used for people to contribute to really easily, especially non-technical folks who might want to be contributing around some of your more classical life skills that may not know how to GitHub as much. So yeah, any thoughts or ideas on that? I'd love to chat to you afterwards. And people also keep asking me whether I'm going to do an online version of this as well. And that's a skill issue for me. So I'm kind of potentially, hoping that a company might swoop in and do that at some point. But yeah, people are starting to ask me about the commercial usage of this project. Currently, I've got it licensed under Creative Commons CC BY SA, which excludes commercial usage. So schools and makerspaces are starting to come to me and ask about these particular areas. And yeah, that's kind of why I love Justin's talk yesterday so much, because it really hit home for where I'm currently at with this project. So I'm kind of looking for different ideas on how to manage that as well. And yeah, thank you so much for listening, everyone. Cool. So there's a link to my GitHub page, my website, and if you're interested in picking up a book, that's the QR code. Thank you.